Hey designers, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to walk you through how I built this site here in Webflow, adding some cool interactions and animations, as well as how I'm using the CMS for this video series. I did a video previously about the design of the site, going into the design decisions that I made, so check that out, linked on a card if you want to know more about that. But in this video, let's get into some of the cool features about this Webflow build. So first, let me give you a look at the site. So as you can see on load, these pieces at the top sort of like slide in, which is fun. My play buttons have this little growing animation on them. My little arrow links also have this little interaction, which I think is pretty cute. This here is a carousel that slides along just to the next one each time, and you could also drag and slide along like that too, which is quite nice, especially for when you're on mobile. I've got these featured sections here. As you can see, these slide in as well, and some more interactions as we get to the bottom. And then each session itself, let's go into Mandy Moore's for example, also has its own page with another little interaction loading there. And we've got these sharing buttons that sort of say stuck to the side when you scroll through a description. This one isn't a very long one, so it's perhaps not the best example. And then at the bottom of the page, we've got two more sessions, and these are chosen randomly. I'll show you how I did that in the CMS. And this same footer on each page, which is sort of like a big ad, I guess, promotion for ConvertKit. I have this page here, the all sessions page, which is all of the sessions that are currently live, and it's filterable, and we can see some cute little animation happening there, which is pretty nice. And then there is the schedule, which will always show the session that's coming up next. I've got this little RSVP form here as well, which is kind of in a drop down, and then this banner at the top sticks across the whole site as a link back to ConvertKit. So that's the site, that's the walkthrough. And now let me get into Webflow and show you some of the build features. Let's start with the CMS because that plays a pretty big part in this site. I wanted this site to be something that isn't a huge amount of work and like a heavy lift to keep updated. That was really important for, making sure our workflow is efficient. So I have two CMS collections in here. One is the categories for the sessions. That's what you saw on the all sessions page. And then there's the sessions themselves. So in the sessions themselves, I've got a bunch of different fields to have space for everything. Yeah, basically every single piece that you saw on the individual session page has a field here in the CMS. To look through it, we get the category, we get if it's live or not. I'll show you where that comes into play. I have a field for the date of the session that is like a date picker one, but then I also have this display date and time because I didn't like all of Webflow's options for formatting that date of the session. I wanted it specifically to look like this, as you can see here in my little suggestion text. So that was the solution that I had for that. We have the YouTube link, obviously, because videos are all from YouTube. The one-line description is what you see on these cards here. This little one. The press photo, that is an option for displaying down here at the bottom. Right now we're just using the screenshot, which is this field here. But yeah, uploading a press photo as well is something that we could do. We've got the description, the promotion text, which can go on the schedule page, their website, which I have a little note about it here that I want it to be written as a pretty link. So that's to go in here. So I don't like when you have a website printed on screen and it says that HTTPS www. It's really annoying that in YouTube descriptions you have to do that or it's not clickable as a link. So that's how I got around that, is there's a pretty link and then the actual link, create a website URL, is used as the link of that link. How many times can I say link? I'm sure there's probably a faster way to do that with code, but this was my no code solution to do that. Like I know in PHP, for example, I've written code before that strips out the HTTPS www, but yeah, that was my solution for now. And then we have all the fields for the creator's social media, and I've set them up with conditional visibility so that only shows if that field has been filled in, and we'll get into how I did that. Those are the sessions, and then for the categories, we just have 3 at the moment. We don't currently have like a category page, so that hasn't been designed, and that's not a thing that exists at the moment. But yeah, let's get into some of the pages. So starting from the home page. This bit here was something I really wanted to do an animation for. I tried, but because of the way the logo is animated, I'll put it on screen right now so that you can see it animated. Because of the way I did that with a write-on effect, That's not something that could be brought over to Lottie files, which is a really great implementation for being able to have motion graphics on a website very easily, but it only applies to certain After Effects features. So unfortunately, this wasn't one of them. So instead, I just did that loading in like you saw. This bit here, this latest session, so this is a collection list, and I have it displaying just one, and it's showing the newest session. So that means that, oh, and also it's got a filter for being live. Technically, in our system, this session here from Brittany Spencer is the newest one that's being created, but because it's not live yet, it's the one that's up next. It's not got that filter on. Only the one with a session marked as live is shown at the top. And that little switch was my way of making sure that, yeah, I didn't have to have two separate collections, like one for when it's upcoming and one for when they're actually live. It means it can just be one CMS collection item the whole time, and its status sort of changes depending on the date or that little switch. Let's go through this. So an interesting thing about this carousel, let me go back to our homepage here, is that it's hard to see it in the builder because I had to use some custom code for this. I'm going to open up the custom code from the page and you can get a look at it. I used a tutorial. I will leave a link to the tutorial that I followed down below because it was super helpful for figuring this out. I definitely wouldn't have gotten to this without it, but it was really important to me that I had a carousel that was, you know, nice to swipe through on a touch device, but also one that I would show like 3 items across and it would only move one place over, if that makes sense. And I wanted to have this sort of thing where you were seeing the cards at the side too. And as you shrink your screen in, which I'll just do quickly here, you can see that it changes to just showing 2 across on a tablet screen and then down to just 1 across on mobile. I had to put in some custom code for this. That's the thing. Webflow is a no-code solution, but you do end up adding code sometimes to achieve what you want. So I just copy and pasted this code in and I changed some of the settings, not many honestly, to fit what I needed, and that's how I got that working. And this code here is for the little slider buttons so that you can move those along. That's why you don't see that in here. So that was difficult to build and I had to like change some settings at first just to make sure it showed so that I could get the cards right. But yeah, you see it when you publish the site. This section here is using some absolute positioning to have the image here with this image coming in on top because the text was using a bunch of special characters and stuff. So I just exported it as an SVG. So yeah, that slides in. And I added all of the page load interactions. Is super easy in Webflow. You just sort of like click on an element and you set it to add a scroll into view interaction to it. And there's a bunch of different things you can pick from, but I usually just do it sliding from the side. Nice and subtle, but still pretty nice. Then we had our film and photography section, which is the same situation. And so these are separate collection lists here, but I'm filtering it by the session category. So that means in this one, it's showing only sessions that are live. So Brittany Spencer's that's coming up isn't seen here because it's not a live session yet. And it's only showing ones that are in the category music. Yeah, then we had Amy Vitale as well. This I set up as a symbol because like you saw, I put it on every single page. So that made it really easy. If I wanted to make changes to it, I could just edit it in one place. Super useful. And then this footer as well was another symbol. And you'll notice that all my forms inside Webflow look like this. That's because I've embedded the ConvertKit JavaScript for my form. So you really only see it on the live site. So yeah, that's our homepage. Utilizing a lot of collection lists. So there's actually like 1, 2, 3, 4 collection lists on the page. These ones here, this block about Drew Holcomb and this one about Amy Vitale, these are static. I haven't made these part of the CMS collection. These are something that if we feel like there's a new favorite session comes about, because these are some of our favorite sessions, that's why I've put them there. We'll pull a quote from that, I'll design it, and we can manually swap out this section, and that's okay. Yeah, I didn't really go into this yet, but this is a collection item for the session coming up next. So whereas this one is filtering by only showing the first session, like the newest session with the on switch on, this one is showing the oldest session, I guess, like the one with the date that's closest to today's date with the session live switch off. So that means that if we have like 3 or 4 upcoming sessions in there, it'll still show just the next one in this up next section, which makes sense because it's up next, right? One thing I will say with these, because like this sort of card style with a diagonal is something that I used throughout the site. I didn't reach a great solution with this. This is something I want to go back and fix. On some specific like screen sizes, you can see a little 1 pixel gap between this triangle and the green block here, because this is just an SVG sitting on top. So that's not ideal, and that's something that I want to fix. I tried to do some stuff with like clipping paths and things like that, but I couldn't wrap my head around it. So this was the closest that I could get with my no-code solution. Okay, what else? Oh, okay, this is a new use of symbols in Webflow that I hadn't tried before, where you can have a symbol, but then have overrides on the symbol. So for this sort of arrow link, which is a common pattern that I like to use throughout the design, I set, obviously there's the URL that it will go to as a override, and also the text that you would see here as an override. So that meant that I could have a symbol that was the arrow link, but I could still change out the text and what the link was throughout, so that that was easy to edit and easy to keep updated. And that also meant that when I added an interaction, see how I clicked into it and it says, this is the default text value for a symbol field. So that means that as I added an interaction to it, it would be applied to all of them. And I wouldn't have to add that each time, which was really helpful. So yeah, this has just got on hover, it moves the little arrow out and then back like you saw up here. Boop, boop. Super cute. Okay. Let's go over to the all sessions page, because this was another page where some custom code had to be added, and here in Webflow, it doesn't look great. So my struggle with this was again to do with the fact that I really wanted to have the next upcoming session on the left. Let's open up the page on the live site so we can see it properly. I always wanted, when you loaded this page, for the next one to be sitting here. And that presented some challenges as part of the filtering of the collections. And the way I figured out that I needed to do it was essentially have 3 different collection lists on the page. This is one, this is another one, and then all the rest is another one again. So that's why it's looking weird in here. We've got 1 collection, 2 collection, and then all the rest down here is our 3rd collection. So one piece of the custom code on the page, which piece is it? This one here. So this little script, I believe, is combining all those 3 collections technically into one, so that when the filters are doing their thing, these bits here, it's filtering the whole thing and like treating it as if it's all the same content that it's filtering, because that was another piece of custom code that I added. Again, I followed a tutorial for this, which was super useful. I will link that down below in case you want to follow along with it as well. So this piece of custom code here set the filter button so that when you click it, it hides essentially all of the items in the collection list that don't meet the conditions, and the conditions that I set on it were for my categories. So that's what it was based on. That is what that custom code is doing, and I wouldn't know of a way to do it without the custom code, honestly, the thing I was trying to do. But yes, this is using CSS Grid for the layout here as well, so that when they all combined together, they all had the same styling on them. This is another page where I had the same problem with the 1 pixel by the diagonal. And I also had to re-export some of the images here too, because some of them just sat too far to the side. Like this one's borderline okay. But yeah, it's really hard when you're working with dynamic content to make sure that every piece of it looks good, you know? Yes, that's what we end up with there, is this sort of filtering option. And it's not ideal the way that it moves. Like, I think it's a little bit extreme, but I didn't really know how to change it myself. And this suited my needs. Like, this was the functionality that I wanted and it was fine. So I left it as it was, and we moved on with our lives. I have another little interaction here on the watch this session. The little play button grows, which I thought was really cute. That was another interaction that was applied to anything with that class. And as I was thinking through the usability of this page, I actually decided to make the creator's name clickable as well, to go to their individual page as well as the watch the session button, because I just thought that's something that people might do. So yeah, we can click on here and check out this page. So you might notice, if you have watched my video about the design of this site, that this page looked slightly different in the design. Like, I think it looked better, honestly, but I ran into a challenge with the build of it where you would end up clicking the play button too many times. We're already doing that in a way. So like, see, I was on this all sessions page, I click watch the session, And it's not great that it takes me to this page where I have to click play again to actually start watching the session, but I think it's okay. Like, that is acceptable. What was not acceptable though in the previous version that I had when I first built it was that you would then see the play button on this page and you have to click that again to load the YouTube video and then again to actually play the session. So yeah, that wasn't great usability, and I wanted to do something to change that. And so instead I decided to go with just the video being out there on the page for all to see when you load it. It's not ideal because we see the creator sessions is repeated, the name repeated, it's also up here. So yeah, visually I definitely preferred my design, but this was like a consideration I had to make for my build constraints, because we really did want to use the YouTube video on this page. We like building up views on the YouTube videos for the series because, I mean, it's something that looks great to creators considering coming on, right? That they're seeing how many views the sessions are getting. And if you autoplay a YouTube video, it doesn't count towards the views. Hot tip. We could have embedded by Wistia or Vimeo or some other things like that and had it be easier to autoplay. I don't know, that might be something we consider doing in the future when the series has built up more of a name for itself. But for now, the YouTube plays are important to us, and so we're going with this direction here. That is my explanation for why it looks different from the design. Let's go into the template for this page. Yeah, so obviously this is the collection list template, so any changes that I would make here would apply to any page for an item in the sessions collection. So we have the video, we have this pulling in from the description field, like all of the content on this page is pulling from fields in the CMS, and then this little share this session section is sitting out to the side here. How to do this? Yeah, that's right. I put this in a grid with this being in one side, and then I used position sticky, I believe, on the sharing widget. Yeah, because this is in the grid, this div is taking up 100% of the height of whatever this stuff here will be. So if it's a longer description, this div will be a longer height. And then the sharing widget will always stay sort of like up the top here as we scroll down till you get to the bottom, and then it goes up with the rest. So that was the exact functionality I wanted. I was really pleased to have had that figured out. My sharing links themselves, I've used some custom code for it. So to get like a pre-written tweet, essentially, let me just see if I click this, we can show you what will happen. So this is what you see in the pre-written tweet. When you click on one of those sharing items. And so I have that sitting in here in the URL because that's sort of like, how you add that stuff for a tweet. And we fetch the slug of the page was a field that I could add from the CMS in here. I probably could have tried to figure out a way to have the name in there too, but I couldn't figure out how to get this, %20 in between each word of the name, which is what you have to have to be part of the tweet, or else the URL will be broken. So again, this is sort of like a consideration that I made to be, as close as possible. And same for the other links too. We fetched the slug in the piece of sharing code to make that link. This bit here is the bit that I was talking about where I have a bunch of conditional visibility happening. So this one here is like, you're only going to see it if the creator Instagram URL is set. If they don't have an Instagram and we haven't put anything in that field in the CMS, you will not see this icon, which is why right here you don't see Spotify or SoundCloud, because Matt and Rose are filmmakers and they don't have a Spotify and a SoundCloud. Makes sense. Here we have another collection list, and this one I've limited to 2 items, and it's only showing sessions that are live, and I also set it to filter out so it's not ever going to show the current session as well, because it's random. So it's going to shuffle and it's going to show you 2 random other sessions at the bottom of each page. And here is our arrow link again, where as you can see I've edited the text to say see all sessions. The last page that I will take you through is the schedule. This has 2 collection lists on the page. We went collection list mad on the build of the site, that is for sure. So this one here is set like on the homepage, it's showing the one that's coming up next. I explained it before, you know what settings I had by now. And then down here, we actually only have 1 upcoming session at the moment. We need to get some more added, but this is that list, and this will show all of the sessions that are not yet live. And this is where you can see an example of that little 1 pixel problem I was having. So annoying. Definitely need to fix that. This here is just a very simple grid showing text, image, image, text. And then when we get down on smaller screens, the images stack as well. I don't know why Webflow always does this, but like on mobile, working with grids sometimes, it doesn't look great. But I promise you, like if I go onto the page on here and we shrink it down. It shrinks down normally, just as you'd want it to. So yeah, this page, definitely the most simple of the site, but again, we've got those 2 collection lists happening here. And that same symbol of the ConvertKit promo and the footer as per usual. One last thing I'll show you before we wrap up here is the RSVP dropdown. This little thing happening right here. So I tried a bunch of different ways to do this, but in the end, I decided that the easiest way was just to use the drop-down element that Webflow has pre-built and available. It sort of got me most of the way there, and I just made a couple of tweaks to make it work. It's meant to be used for kind of like a menu. I did a bunch of stuff to make it show that form in it instead. So we have this, what I've called the modal here, and let me open it. So even just things like this make it easier to use the Webflow pre-built elements, because then you've got like settings added, you know? I don't know, it worked out well. I built this box here. I used I believe I used some absolute positioning. Yeah, used some absolute positioning on it with the notch as well to get that to be sitting underneath the button. That worked out well in the end, but like I said, it took me a while to get there. And yeah, that is just using Webflow's built-in drop-down functionality. So that is a look at how I built this site in Webflow. I'm really proud of it. I think it's my favorite thing and probably the best thing that I've ever designed and then built in Webflow. I think it's going to serve us really well, you know, with all the automation that's happening as part of it, and how that switch of whether it's live or not controls where it gets put throughout the site. I think it's really useful, and yeah, really proud of it. And I hope you enjoyed hearing about the build. This took me, I was just totaling it up by looking at the number of hours that I spent streaming the process of building the site, because I did try and stream the majority of it. I think it was probably like a 15 to 20 hour build process. That's probably on the higher end of an estimate for the build length, but definitely took longer, way longer to build it than I did to design it in this place, because of a lot of more complex stuff that I was trying with it that was new to me. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful, or at least interesting. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and let me know what sort of videos you'd want to see from me in future. If there's anything about this site in particular that you want me to go into more detail about in a very specific video, let me know and I can do that for you. But thanks for being here, thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!